below the middle full-time wage in Australia. Around half of all workers in the country earn close to that. But the lifestyle this wage gives today looks nothing like it did 10 years ago. Rents have jumped to record highs. Food prices keep climbing. Power bills hit harder every quarter. So what does life really look like for an Australian earning $70,000 a year right now? Here is the honest breakdown, dollar by dollar, with the real numbers behind one of the most common wages in the country. Start with the pay itself. A wage of $70,000 sounds solid on paper, but after income tax and the Medicare levy, the take-home pay drops to about $56,800 a year. That works out to around $1,092 a week landing in the bank. From the 1st of July 2026, the lowest tax bracket drops from 16% to 15%. That gives a small boost each year, but it does not change the bigger picture. The biggest cost by far is rent. Rents across Australia have hit record highs in every capital city. In Sydney, the middle rent is now sitting near $824 a week. In Brisbane, it has climbed to around $720 a week. Adelaide is close behind at about $646 a week. Melbourne, often seen as the cheaper big city, now sits near $632 a week. Perth has surged to similar levels. Even Hobart, once the most affordable capital, has pushed past $500 a week. For someone on $70,000, finding a place under $500 a week often means moving to the outer suburbs, sharing with others, or leaving the capital city altogether. A $500 a week rent alone takes $26,000 a year. That is almost half the take-home pay, gone before food or bills. After rent comes the next big hit: power, gas, water, and internet. The average Australian home now pays around $400 every 3 months for electricity. Gas adds another $230 or so. Add water, internet, and a phone plan, and the real weekly cost to keep a home running lands between $80 and $100 a week. Over a full year, that adds up to about $4,500. Then there is food. Grocery prices in Australia are now one of the most talked about money problems in the country. Recent numbers show the average shopper spends around $207 a week on groceries. A single person being careful can keep it closer to $140 to $160 a week. Add in some takeaway, a couple of meals out, or a few coffees, and the real food budget pushes past $200 a week. Over the year, that is more than $10,400 just on eating. Now the numbers start to tell the real story. Rent at $26,000, power and bills at $4,500, food at $10,400. Together, that is $40,900 used up by the three most basic needs. From a take-home wage of $56,800, only $15,900 is left. Spread across 52 weeks, that leaves about $305 a week to cover everything else. That $305 a week has to stretch a long way. It has to cover transport, insurance, health costs, clothes, streaming, haircuts, social plans, gifts, and any surprise bill. Anyone running a car can easily spend $100 a week once fuel, servicing, insurance, and registration are all added up. Public transport in a major city costs around $50 a week for a daily commuter. Basic private health cover adds another $30 to $50 a week. Once these are paid, the leftover money often drops below $100 a week. And that small amount is meant to cover savings, investing, and any long-term goal. This is why so many Australians on $70,000 say they feel stuck. The wage is well above the minimum and above many lower-paid jobs in the country, but it leaves very little breathing room. Recent research shows that Australian homeowners now spend around 42% of their income on basic costs. Renters in capital cities often spend even more, with some paying more than half their take-home pay on rent alone. The old goals of saving for a home, retiring well, or taking a holiday overseas now feel out of reach for many on this kind of wage. Where someone lives plays a huge role in this story. Life on $70,000 looks very different from one postcode to the next. In country towns and smaller cities, the same wage can give a comfortable life. Rent often sits between $400 and $500 a week. Bills and food cost less too. In Sydney or inner Melbourne, the same wage forces hard choices about where to live and how to live. The gap between a country postcode and a capital city postcode can be worth $15,000 to $20,000 a year in real spending power. Lifestyle choices also create big swings. A single person in a share house, cooking at home, and skipping a car can save thousands of dollars a year. Two adults sharing a $70,000 household income face a much harder version of this story than a single person earning $70,000 alone. Family size, kids, and debt all change what this wage really delivers. Debt is one of the main reasons people on a middle wage struggle to get ahead. A car loan with weekly payments of $150 eats almost $8,000 a year. A credit card carrying a $5,000 balance at a 20% interest rate adds another $1,000 in interest alone. Buy now, pay later plans, while marketed as harmless, can soak up $50 to $100 a week. Anyone on $70K who clears these debts often feels like they got a pay rise overnight because that money flows straight back into their weekly budget. Super is another piece of the picture that gets ignored too often. From the 1st of July 2025, the super guarantee rate rose to 12%. On a $70,000 wage, the employer now pays $8,400 a year into a super fund on top of the wage. Choosing a low-fee super fund, checking the investment mix, and combining old accounts can add tens of thousands of dollars to the final balance at retirement. There are also clear patterns among Australians who do well on this kind of income. The first is strict control over rent or mortgage costs. Those who keep housing below 30% of take-home pay have room to save, invest, and handle surprise bills. Anyone paying much more than that finds it very hard to get ahead, no matter how careful they are with smaller costs. The second pattern is auto-saving. Australians who build wealth on average wages tend to move a set amount into a high-interest savings account or an investment app the moment their pay arrives. Even $100 a week moved across and left alone becomes more than $5,000 a year. Placed into a low-cost index fund over 20 to 30 years, that habit alone can grow into a very large sum thanks to interest building on interest. The third pattern is growing the income itself. Cutting costs on a $70,000 wage has a clear limit. Only so much can be trimmed before life starts to feel grim. But income has no limit. New skills, short courses, a job switch, a pay rise, or a small side hustle can all lift the wage. Adding just $10,000 a year to a $70,000 income lifts take-home pay by around $6,700 after tax. The fourth pattern is awareness. Tracking every dollar, checking every monthly charge, and comparing power and insurance plans once a year can save hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. So what does life on $70,000 a year in Australia really look like in 2026? It looks tight. It looks like careful choices about where to live and how to live. It looks like a wage that meets daily needs but leaves little room for error. And yet for those who know the numbers, protect their biggest cost, and let time work in their favour, it can also look like the first step on a real wealth-building journey. If this breakdown helps show where the money really goes on an average Australian wage, do me a favour and hit the like button. It helps more Aussies find this content. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. And don't forget